Okay, I'm going to call the Tuesday, August 23rd Emergency Advisory Committee meeting to order. And the first item of business is approval of the August 24th 2021 Emergency Advisory Committee meeting. Councillor Kelly, would you like to make that motion?
My apologies, I wasn't paying attention, but yes, I will make that motion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any errors or omissions? Not seeing or hearing any, I will close the motion on the minutes. Please cast your vote. Did you go out and come back in? You have to be in the emergency one.
There's another meeting.
Cheryl Conway is affirmative. I'm not in the correct meeting. Thank you.
Okay, just show of hands for those who didn't go out and come in. Those in favor who haven't got it on. Oh, it's carried unanimously. Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so we have Fire Chief Todd Martins, who is our DEM, and you will be presenting, and there's one item on here, and all the rest of these are appendices that were attached to that. All right, so welcome.
Good afternoon, Your Worship and members of Council. My name is Todd Martins, Fire Chief and the Director of Emergency Management, as well as the Chair for the Emergency Advisory Management Agency. I'm here today to present to you in the role of the Emergency Advisory Committee, not as your role as Council. This distinction is important under the Municipalities Act as well as the Emergency Advisory Committee bylaw. I'm just going to touch on 6 action items or topics today. The actual report to the committee, the mandate and the terms, as well as the previous audit that you would have seen last year, the emergency plan and approval, as well as the HIRA that you would have seen last year, and any incidents that have occurred from August of last year till now. So the Emergency Management Agency update to the EAC. There are no real changes to the mandate, the terms of reference, or any roles this year for Council. As per the Act and the local authority management regulations, I need to just explain a few things, as you probably heard last year, the role of Council in the EAC committee. Council's role is basically to approve the plan and any related programs. The Emergency Advisory Committee's role for the disaster and emergency situations will authorize, do the declaration, renewal, or termination of any local emergency events. The other role is to approve any training as per the lemur and appoint an annual council meeting, which we're here today doing. Any ongoing training and exercises over the next 4 years. The mayor acts as the chair and the deputy mayor in absence. So last year, we had the 2020 and 2021 audit, and basically how it works now is we review this audit with our field officers, Mark Pickford and John Switz, who we met with this year to review the previous audit and review next steps. Again, I just want to point out that it was a very favorable audit. We did have a few recommendations, which I'll touch on. We have 5 that we're working through currently. The first one is the disaster recovery program or plan. This is not completed and ongoing with our EMA group. The second one was to identify and fill gaps in the city's organizational structure. So we looked at restructuring the IMT group, which is our roles as planning, logistics, operations, and finance, and basically review the roles, the training, the depth, the number of members we need to supply that training, as well as to implement should we need them. The next one is the emergency management and regulation, so the lemur, and that outlines training and training for the city employees as well as council. And council, if you remember, we did the elected officials training this year. We ran 3 courses through the Director of Emergency Management, which is the DEM course for everybody on the DEM team, as well as we did ICS training this year through the program and reviewed any of the supplies and materials that we have currently in our Emergency Operations Center in the basement. We also have a planning and operations training scheduled for fall of this year to for our members to take as part of their objectives for training this year as well. The next one was identified was our emergency social services plan. And so currently we're working on that, as well as working with the provincial liaison officer to try to clean up what we still have outstanding from the audit. And the last one that we took a big look at was actually the Emergency Operations Center. Having a backup center, as well as what we need upcoming for supplies and room. And this was a lot of work went into reviewing this, and there will be more work that's coming up, which will be identified through the Fire Master Plan. So the actual plan that council approves, if you remember, in 2019 and 2020, council approved that the appendices and any updates or revision for that was on administration to do and make those changes, but council would actually review the municipal and sign off on the municipal emergency plan. So that's what I looked at this year, as well as had AMA look at and the group, the AEMA group. And after review, not a lot of changes, a few minor changes for names, which was removing Brad Ward's name and adding myself into that report. And one other change was a definition from Emergency Operations Center to Emergency Coordination Center. And the reason for this is through the province, there seems to be a change that EOCs don't operate the incidents, they support the incidents. So with the language changing to Coordination Center, they felt that was a better word to use when assisting operations at an arm reach from site. So we'll be seeking approval for those changes today. The HIRA, this was developed 2 years now, and we're reviewing it every 4 years as a complete review, but we do review it annually. So there was 32 risks that we identified through the stakeholder group. 5 key ones are the industrial, which are our hazard release pipeline facilities, environmental for extreme weather, infrastructure, public health and unsaid, and transportation. This year, again, a lot of 2022 was still, the beginning of 2022 was with the pandemic. So a lot of time went into still the public health side of the house for the HIRA, as well as the annual review. We still felt that the 5 that we identified were still our top 5 out of the 32 risks. One thing I'd like to highlight in working with Enercare this year as well was the message board signs. And I don't know if you've seen them as you come into Fort Saskatchewan or around the both counties. There's 10 signs, and working with AT, getting these installed will have the ability for us to post any messages to these boards, whether it's a road closure or an incident at site, for any detours or any zones that are affected. People will have the ability to turn around before they enter our city. The incidents and planned events, so this would be any incidents that have occurred at our industry or small incidents in our city, as well as any planned exercise or events that we might have. This is a summary of the incidents for council, and it's not, the details of these incidents aren't shared publicly. So the first one is industry, and we're down from 15 last year to 8, but we don't know the reasons why. It could be better safety practices, it could be not reporting. However, this year we did have a result of an explosion and a small injury as well as a few other factors on safety reporting of some leaking from one of their boiler rooms that never left site. The next one is environmental. This seems pretty consistent with four this year, 4 last year, and these are extreme weather events. So we had the -30 and now we had the +30. So those seem to be the same. Infrastructure, 5 this year compared to 1 last year. And this is the contributed to the water main break here at City Hall, the pedestrian bridge getting hit, and we both had the fire department had telecommunications outages with our radio system a few times with the transition to NG 911 with Strathcona Dispatch. The next one, public health, and this refers basically to the pandemic still, the beginning of the 2022 year, and we had a few vandalism and fires and damage to the city facilities. The last one was transportation and rollover with a city vehicle, as well as most recent fatality out at one of the sites at Dow, and a small hit and run with downtown City of Fort Saskatchewan. And in closing, 2022 has been a year of review for the EM folder and program. We spent a lot of time building relationships with our industry partners, visiting the sites and mock exercise as well, and reviewing their emergency response plans in partnership with ours. This consumed a lot of the time through the first and second quarter of 2022. And at that, I just want to say thank you for your time, and I'll take any questions.
Great. Thank you very much for your presentation and all of the information. So I will open it up if there's any questions. Our fire chief. Councillor Abatoye.
Thank you for your presentation. So when you're talking about the incidents, the numbers sound really low to me if we're considering the whole community. So when you talk about industry, for example, you said it went from 15 to 8. So what period of time are we looking at? We're looking in the last 1 year. So all of these 4 factors you talked about: industry, environmental, infrastructure, public health, and transportation. Are you looking at the city as a whole, or are there specific things you're looking at?
Your Worship, and through to Councillor Abatoye. So the time period is from last August or beginning of September until now. And as per our bylaw, and us being the authority having jurisdiction, and we have industry fall within city limits, they're obligated to report any incident to the city. We might not take any action, they're just obligated to report. Again, I don't know why the numbers are low. This could be, again, the safe practices have gotten better, or they're just not reporting. So I'm not sure.
Which is a good thing, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, but I missed. You didn't say the data for the public health and transportation. What do the numbers look like?
So the number. Oh, sorry about that. Public health was 3 to 3, and it was just the COVID.
Same as last year.
And transportation was 3 to 1. This year up 3. Last year was 1.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for your presentation again.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Kelly.
Yes, thank you. More specific questions. I got a couple, Todd, and then a general question. Let me get to the correct page here first. Bear with me, please. It's 16 of our materials, not 16 necessarily of yours. Hang on. Yeah, so it's page 15 of, I think it's the audit. I think that's what you called the audit, where there's check boxes as to whether or not we comply. I think that was the audit.
Yep.
Page 15 has a series of boxes marked no. For instance, under 41, each elected official must complete the elected official's course within 90 days of taking oath, and that's marked as a no. I don't want to know here if I'm the culprit, but could I ask that you notify those people that haven't taken the course so they could?
Your Worship, through to Councillor Kelly, yes, when the audit came, we hadn't taken that course yet. So we've since taken the course, so it will be a check that
Okay,
we've
thank
taken
you.
elected officials training.
On that same page, it's marked no, where it says each employee of the local authority who has been assigned responsibilities respecting the implementation must take basic emergency management and ICS 100, and we've marked no for those.
Your worship, through to Councillor Kelly, that is correct. Again, at that time, the individuals hadn't taken it, so we don't do an audit every year. So this was done previous in 2021-22. That was a no, and now since then we've taken the basic emergency management, the ICS training, as well as the director of emergency management training to tick a lot of those boxes.
So we're thank you. We're batting 100 here. Then at the top of that page is a series of 4 marked no, which really all 4 of those revolve around the conduct of an exercise on an annual basis to I guess test your capability, or and it says no. So have you undertaken that or plan to sometime in the near future?
Your worship, through to Councillor Kelly, yes. So we met with AEMA, our field reps, and we laid out most recently a 4-year plan to do that. So with COVID, a lot of the exercise got pushed. We had one here, I think, scheduled last year, maybe April, that we pushed. And so this year we went back to the drawing board, and since it had been a number of years since not only council but even administration did any training on this, we decided to, the first year of the plan will be for administration, small activation of the EOC. The second year will implement different parts of the IMT. The third year will be gradually bigger, and then the fourth year will be when we add council into the mix and as far as your role.
And I'm going to put you on the spot. That's sufficient to meet our requirements under this?
Correct, yes.
Perfect, thank you. One last specific question then, if I may. It's page 50 of our materials. It's City of Fort Saskatchewan Hazard Identification and Risk Assessment. Page 11 of that report. HIRA Next Steps, an updated CEMP HIRA, I love acronyms, should be completed in Q1, Q2 of 22. Says should be completed. Was it? Have we managed to do that?
Your worship, through to Councillor Kelly, no, we haven't completed that. We went back to our reps, with the AME reps, and suggested that basically, when this one was last done, that we could actually push it out a couple of years to align better with our training as for the exercise. So we've pushed that out from this year into 2024 or the end of Q4 of 23. I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay, and I'm going to put you on the spot. You're comfortable with that as our DEM?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. And then just a general question, if I may. In the comparison year over year and the stats, it struck me that each of the instances you talked about was rather specific, and I would have trouble in my mind classifying any one of those as a community emergency. I mean, accidents happen. We deal with it on the spot and we move on to the next day. So is there a distinction between what is classified an emergency and what is not?
Your worship, and through to Councillor Kelly, that's a great question, and it's something actually I'm looking into as well. It's as per the bylaw, their members are obligated to report incidents, and so we need to look further and what that reporting structure looks like. For the fire department, we go to accidents and fires and certain things that aren't in this report, and so it was mentioned to the AEMA reps that is something we wanted to further look at in the bylaw. So that is my job to do the rest of this year or next year, is to look at that and come back to council with some of those recommendations.
And I think that I would agree with that. The rollover of a city vehicle, unless it's carrying something very noxious, shouldn't even be front page news. That kind of stuff happen, or unless Mr. Fleming was driving the truck, for instance, ought not to make front page news and ought not to be in a community emergency.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Nguyen, questions?
Yeah, hi, thanks for your presentation today. My question just has to do with resources. I believe you alluded to at the beginning of your presentation that we could be perhaps better equipped with further resources to fulfill the requirements of our emergency management plan. I know it says in the report that we're able to use any and all resources that the city has available through the various emergency services. Do you feel, without getting into too much detail, which there is quite a bit in the audit about perhaps each individual potential emergency, do you feel that we are lacking in resources in a, I don't know, in a greater capacity in certain areas, and further to that, would there potentially be a budget request this year following that?
Your Worship, through to Councillor Noy. We're currently undergoing the fire service master plan, and that is one of the items that we're reviewing is emergency management. So we're hoping to come back through the master plan with recommendations around emergency management. At this point, it wouldn't be fair to speak to the whole program because that's what we're going to be taking upon and reviewing, and come back with recommendations for exactly what your resources, staffing, equipment requests. We do have a request, I think, for council coming to this budget as for emergency management for operating expenses.
For our entire emergency management plan, though, not fire or policing specific.
No, for emergency management.
Okay,
that's correct.
Look forward to seeing that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. It doesn't look like there's any additional questions, so thank you for the presentation. There is one motion. Councillor Nguyen, do you want to put that on?
I can find it
Here, just, oh, you got it? Just push your button, please. Go ahead.
I move that the Emergency Advisory Committee approve the City of Fort Saskatchewan Municipal Emergency Plan updated to August 23rd, 2022.
Okay, thank you. I'll accept the motion. Would you like to speak in favor of it?
Yeah, I think this is certainly an ongoing process to get where we want to be, and that's been clear from the presentation today. I think there's a lot of good groundwork that has been done, and I'd be happy to support the motion.
Great, thank you. The motion is open for discussion and debate. Not seeing anything on close?
Nothing on close.
You're good. The motion is now closed. Please cast your vote. That motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. So with that, I will adjourn the Emergency Advisory Committee meeting. Thank you. And with that, we will go back and resume the other meeting. Now, you don't need a break, do you? Because we're just going to take a motion to go in camera. All right. So we will resume the August 23rd regular meeting, and I will require a motion to go in camera. Councillor Blizzard.
I'll make a motion that we go in camera for whatever's need to be discussed.
As per the information and
Yes.
freedom which is listed on our agenda. So motion is closed. If you've gone out and come in, okay, just yeah, raise your hand. Those in favor. Councillor Blizzard has.
Oh, I already did. Voted.
And any opposed? So that's carried unanimously. Thank you. So we are in camera, so we will go up to the committee room. Thank you.